Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop chasing, they start running after you? It's like magic. The second you emotionally pull away, suddenly he's texting more, calling more, wondering what happened. But here's the truth. It's not magic. It's energy. When you fully detach, something shifts inside you. Not just in your actions, but in your vibration. You stop reaching, you stop explaining, and you stop begging to be seen. You become still, and in that stillness, you become powerful. Because energy always seeks attention. And when yours is no longer directed toward him, he feels that emptiness. He feels the absence of your emotional supply. That's when the restlessness begins. He starts wondering what changed. He replays your last conversations. He feels that subtle pull, not because you're doing anything, but because you finally stopped doing everything. This is where detachment becomes your superpower. You're no longer trying to control how he sees you or how he feels about you. You're controlling what you give your energy to. And the moment you reclaim it, your power returns. So if you've ever felt invisible, ignored, or undervalued, stay right here. Because in this video, we're breaking down exactly why your silence speaks louder than any words, why emotional detachment flips the dynamic, and how mastering this shift can make him and everyone around you feel your presence more than ever before. Ready? Let's dive in. Here's the thing. The moment you start to pull back, he doesn't notice right away. At first, he might even feel relieved. He thinks, finally, she's not on my back. She's giving me space. He assumes it's temporary, that you'll come running back the second he throws you a breadcrumb. That's how predictable your energy used to be. He knew exactly where to find it, but then something shifts. Days pass. You're quieter. You're lighter. You're not reacting the way you used to. The texts he sends don't get the same enthusiastic replies. You're no longer waiting for his attention. You're focused on yourself, and that's when confusion starts creeping in for him. He starts asking himself questions he never had to ask before. Why isn't she checking in? Why doesn't she seem bothered? Has she met someone? The very silence he once claimed to want becomes the thing that unsettles him the most. Because now he feels the absence of your energy. The warmth, the reassurance, the attention he once took for granted. This is the moment detachment starts to work on a deeper level. It's not punishment. It's not manipulation. It's balance returning. You're no longer feeding a one-sided connection. Your energy has stopped chasing, and that creates space. Space that he can't control. Space that he now feels. And make no mistake, he feels it, not just emotionally, but energetically. He might not even understand why he feels uneasy, but he'll start to notice little things. He'll scroll through your social media and wonder why you look so calm, so unbothered. He'll replay old messages, trying to find clues about what changed. He might even reach out just to test if he still has that pull over you. What he doesn't realize is that your silence is speaking volumes. You're no longer reacting. And in relationships, reactions are currency. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the dynamic that kept you small. You shift from being predictable to being a mystery. And mystery to the masculine mind is magnetic. He starts to sense that the emotional safety net he once had, you is no longer there to catch him. That's when restlessness begins to turn into realization. He begins to see what your presence truly meant. The energy you once gave so freely now feels valuable, rare, almost sacred. And in that space of distance, you finally regain something priceless, your peace. Because while he's trying to figure you out, you're no longer trying to figure him out. You're learning to enjoy the calm that comes with not needing to chase, not needing to fix, and not needing to prove your worth. That's the power of detachment. When you stop running after validation, it starts running after you. When you fully detach, you trigger something deep inside him, something primal, something psychological. It's not just about missing you. It's about losing a sense of control. See, when you were emotionally invested, when you cared too much, he felt a subtle sense of power, not because he's cruel, but because human nature responds to validation. Your attention, your emotions, your constant availability, all of that became part of his identity. Then suddenly, it's gone. The energy he once absorbed without effort disappears. The familiar pattern breaks. And when a pattern breaks, the mind goes into overdrive trying to restore balance. That's when the restlessness begins. That gnawing sense of something's off. It's not even about love at first. It's about the disruption of emotional rhythm. You were the emotional mirror he unconsciously depended on. Every reaction you gave, anger, frustration, excitement, affection, reflected his value back to him. When that mirror goes dark, he's forced to look inward, and for many, that's uncomfortable. Because for the first time, he's not being fed emotionally. He's not receiving that external validation that told him he mattered. This is when confusion meets ego. He starts thinking, did she stop caring? Did I lose her? Why doesn't she need me anymore? And the irony, the more he tries to convince himself that he doesn't care, the more his subconscious betrays him. He starts checking in. Not because he wants to reconnect emotionally, but because he needs reassurance that he still matters to you. That's the psychology of detachment at work. Your absence creates a void his mind can't easily fill. It activates his curiosity, his competitiveness, his desire to win you back, even if he doesn't fully understand why. It's not always love. Sometimes it's the loss of influence that stings the most. Because what the ego craves above all else is significance. When you detach, you stop giving that significance freely. You pull back your emotional energy, and that's what he truly feels missing. Not just you, but the version of himself that felt powerful around you. Without your emotional responses, his self-image starts to wobble. That's when restlessness turns into reflection. He starts asking deeper questions. Why did I take her for granted? Why do I feel uneasy now? Why do I miss her presence so much? And here's the beautiful part. That's the moment transformation becomes possible. Because whether he admits it or not, your detachment forces growth. It teaches him that attention isn't guaranteed, that energy is earned, and that peace is powerful. So while he's wrestling with confusion, you're sitting in your calm, grounded, centered, and finally free from the emotional roller coaster. And that contrast, that's what makes detachment so magnetic. It's not coldness, it's emotional clarity. The more peaceful you become, the more restless he gets. When you go silent, the first thing he feels isn't fear, it's confusion. He's used to your presence, filling the space, to your voice, reaching out to bridge the distance, to your energy trying to make things right. Silence isn't something he's familiar with from you. So at first, he mistakes it for a mood, a temporary attitude, something that'll fade once you've calmed down. He might even smirk to himself, thinking, she'll text me soon, she always does. But then hours turn into days, and your silence doesn't shift. You don't react, you don't chase, you don't explain. And that's when a quiet panic begins to grow in him. Not loud or obvious, but deep and unsettling. Because your silence has a weight to it. It carries a message that words could never deliver. He starts wondering what you're thinking, but more importantly, what you're feeling. Is she over me? Has she moved on? Did I push her too far this time? Those questions start looping in his mind because your silence removes his ability to predict you. It's in that unpredictability that his control begins to crumble. See, when you were emotionally available, he knew the script. He could read your tone, your reactions, your emotions. They gave him a sense of stability. But silence rewrites the entire story. And here's the psychological twist. Silence forces reflection. When there's no emotional noise coming from you, all he's left with is the echo of his own actions. He starts to replay old arguments, read back old messages, and dissect things he once dismissed. Your silence becomes the mirror he didn't know he needed. Every memory of how he treated you, every moment he ignored your effort, begins to resurface. It's not that silence manipulates. It reveals his insecurities, his guilt, and his dependency on your validation. The human mind hates unanswered questions, and silence is the biggest unanswered question of all. It leaves space for imagination, and in that space, he starts building stories, sometimes of regret, sometimes of fear, sometimes of longing. And if he had taken your presence for granted, this is the moment reality hits. He realizes you're no longer emotionally available to soothe him. You're not waiting on his next move. That realization stings because it dismantles the comfort of being desired without effort. He might test the silence, send a message just to see if he still matters. but your calm, grounded response, or your lack of one, tells him everything he needs to know. You're no longer playing the old game. In that moment, he begins to feel what you once felt, uncertainty. And that's where the true shift happens. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's strength disguised as stillness. And once you master that, you no longer need to speak to be understood. There comes a moment, quiet, subtle, almost invisible, when the energy shifts. It's not when he apologizes, it's not when he notices your silence, it's when you finally stop waiting for him to notice at all. That's the real turning point. It's not dramatic or loud, it's calm, grounded, and unshakable. Because when you reclaim your energy, you stop revolving around him and start orbiting around yourself. You begin to see things clearly. You realize that your value was never tied to his attention, his approval, or his affection. You were powerful all along. You just forgot. You gave pieces of your energy away, little by little, thinking that love meant sacrifice. But now, as you pull your energy back, something profound happens. The noise quiets. The anxiety fades. You start to feel yourself again. It's almost like you've been underwater, holding your breath, and suddenly you come up for air. You look around and realize the world hasn't ended. It's only just beginning. You start investing that energy into things that actually feed you. Your peace, your passions, your purpose. That's what true detachment looks like. Not coldness, not bitterness, but redirection. You're no longer giving energy where it's not respected. You're giving it where it grows. And the wild part, the moment you shift, he feels it. Not because you're doing anything to get his attention, but because your frequency has changed. You're no longer desperate, reactive, or emotionally available on demand. You've become centered, radiant, unpredictable. That's what draws people in. Not the chase, but the calm confidence that says, I don't need to prove my worth. I am my worth. You start moving differently. Your words carry more weight because they come from a place of peace, not pain. Your silence feels powerful instead of empty. You no longer need validation because you've already given it to yourself. That's the energy that can't be faked. It's the glow that comes from choosing yourself over and over again. And here's the beauty of that shift. You don't just reclaim your power, you realign your life. The things that drained you start falling away naturally. The people who only showed up for the version of you that overgave won't know how to meet the version of you that stands tall. And that's okay. That's how the universe clears space for what's meant to grow next. Reclaiming your power isn't revenge. It's remembrance. It's remembering who you were before you forgot your strength. Before you gave away your peace in exchange for someone's inconsistency. When you take your energy back, you stop chasing closure because you become the closure. That's when you stop waiting to be chosen. You realize you were the prize all along. Non-reactivity is not silence. It's strength in motion. It's the art of staying grounded when someone tries to pull you into chaos. It's the calm that makes people question how you can stay so centered when everything around you seems to demand a reaction. When you master non-reactivity, you no longer dance to the rhythm of someone else's emotions. You stop being the puppet to their push and pull behavior. You see their actions. You recognize the manipulation, the testing, the guilt trips. And you simply don't move. You don't fight. You don't explain. You just observe. Because the moment you stop giving emotional responses, you take back control of the dynamic. The truth is, people who thrive on emotional power hate calm energy. They depend on your reactions to validate their importance. When you argue, defend, or explain, you feed their ego. But when you choose peace, when you take a deep breath and refuse to match their chaos, it disarms them completely. Your stillness becomes unsettling, because it shows they no longer have access to your emotions. And this doesn't mean you've stopped feeling. It means you've learned to process before responding. You've learned that not every comment deserves an answer. Not every message deserves a reply. And not every argument deserves your energy. You start to understand that real power isn't in the loud response. It's in the quiet restraint. There's a point where you realize that peace isn't something people can give you. It's something you protect. So, when he tries to provoke you, when he tests your limits to see if you'll break, your new response is no response. You look at the situation and ask, is this worth my energy? Does this serve my peace? If the answer is no, you let it go. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because emotional maturity isn't about always being right. It's about choosing peace over being understood. It's realizing that your reaction gives power to what doesn't deserve it. Once you stop reacting, the entire game changes. People who once fed off your energy suddenly have nowhere to plug in. They start to feel small, irrelevant, confused. And while they scramble to figure out why they can't get the same rise out of you, you're out there, glowing in your peace. Non-reactivity is emotional self-control in its highest form. It's your silent way of saying, I'm no longer available for emotional chaos. It's a shield made of clarity, and once you master it, nothing and no one can shake your inner balance. So the next time someone tries to test your calm, remember this: silence is not surrender, it's mastery. Because when you no longer react, you no longer bleed energy, you stay whole. You stay powerful. You stay untouchable. Confidence and peace. They don't come from being loved by others. They come from finally loving yourself enough to stop needing constant reassurance. Peace is born the moment you realize you don't have to fight for what's already meant for you. Confidence blooms when you stop trying to prove your worth to those who can't see it. It's a quiet transformation. You wake up one day and realize you're no longer waiting for that message, that validation, that moment of recognition. You've become your own source of calm. You start making decisions from a place of stability, not fear. You stop overthinking what others think of you because you finally understand. The only opinion that truly matters is your own. Building confidence doesn't mean being loud, aggressive, or constantly in control. It means trusting yourself. Even when things don't go as planned. It's the steady voice in your heart that whispers, you can handle this. It's knowing that peace isn't the absence of chaos, it's your ability to remain centered within it. You begin to redefine what success feels like. It's no longer about who texts back, who notices your glow up, or who regrets losing you. It's about how grounded you feel in your truth. It's about how easily you can walk away from anything that disturbs your inner calm. Because the real flex isn't getting attention. It's maintaining peace when attention fades. Confidence grows every time you choose yourself. Every time you stop begging for love and start embodying it. Every time you stop chasing closure and start creating it within. It's in the little moments when you say no without guilt, when you rest without feeling lazy, when you forgive yourself for not knowing better before. Peace, on the other hand, is your foundation. It's not something you find, it's something you build. It's built from boundaries, from self-respect, from the discipline of not letting everything get to you. You begin to understand that some people are not meant to walk with you. Not because you're difficult, but because your peace intimidates their chaos. And that's the turning point, when your peace becomes more valuable than your need to be understood. You stop trying to explain your energy to people committed to misunderstanding it. You just live. You just flow. You stop chasing and start attracting, not because you're trying to, but because your frequency has changed. That's when everything shifts. Love, opportunities, abundance, they start finding you because you finally aligned with yourself. You no longer need to perform for love or hustle for validation. You're rooted. You're radiant. You've built a home within your own soul, and that's something no one can take away. Peace and confidence aren't destinations, they're daily choices. And when you keep choosing yourself, life starts choosing you back. When you finally detach, something beautiful happens. You start to glow differently. Not the kind of glow that comes from makeup or attention, but the kind that radiates from peace, from knowing you no longer have to chase what was never aligned with you. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's that quiet moment when you realize you're no longer trying to force connections that drain you. You begin to see how much energy you used to pour into trying to be understood, trying to be chosen, trying to hold things together that were already falling apart. And then slowly, you just stop. You stop trying to convince anyone of your worth. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop wondering what you could have done differently. You finally understand that what's meant for you will recognize you effortlessly, peacefully, and without confusion. That's where the glow begins, not from getting them back, but from getting yourself back. Your energy starts flowing inward. You nurture your spirit, your passions, your purpose. You look in the mirror and realize you no longer need validation to feel valuable. You've built something stronger than attraction. You've built self-respect. And that's the essence of evolution. You stop responding from pain and start living from peace. You stop needing closure because your growth has already given it to you. You stop chasing temporary attention and start creating lasting fulfillment. That's what evolution feels like. It's calm, it's confident, it's quiet. You're no longer fighting for love. You've become love itself. People will notice. They'll feel the shift. Some will try to come back, not because they've changed, but because they can sense you have. But this time, your energy won't be so easily accessible. You'll protect it, honor it, guard it, like the sacred force it is, because you've learned when you detach from needing to be chosen, you automatically become the one who chooses. So as this chapter closes, remember this: detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you trust that what's meant for you won't require you to abandon yourself to keep it. You evolve into someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't settle. You rise, you glow, you move with grace. And in that evolution you realize the power was never in making him restless. The power was always in finding your peace again. Because once you detach, you don't lose love. You discover a deeper kind. The kind that starts and ends with you. So detach, glow and evolve. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to remember everything you are. Because the moment you do, life starts mirroring back the love and stability you've finally given to yourself. You've come home to your power. And that's where your real story begins.